Hello, welcome back to the Do the Work podcast. My name's Dale. I'm a personal trainer and have been so for over 16 years now, and typically help people to feel happier, healthier, to have more energy and feel more confident in the Preston and South Ribble area. But I'm here today to talk about men's mental health with Kurt. Kurt, welcome to the show.
I'm a personal trainer as well. I used to work with Dale 10 years ago and recently started DJing and raising awareness for men's mental health, which is a very important cause to my life. Thank you very much for inviting me down, Dale.
So, Kurt, what is the problem with male mental health right now?
So, men's mental health is something I've been speaking about a lot recently because I'm running this Dance for Depression, which is one of the things I'm here to talk about. And the statistics, which are quite alarming, 80% of all suicides are men. So it's clearly a male issue predominantly. Also, 14 men die from suicide a day. That's in the UK alone. So that's 5,000 unnecessary deaths per year, which again is a very alarming issue that there isn't really an answer on how we solve it. The problem, I think, for a lot of men is they don't feel comfortable to talk about what's going on. But outside of that as well, thinking about me and my friends and the people around us, there's a stigma attached to standing up and owning that actually you're not having a good time because that's not masculine or that's showing that you're weak. But in actual fact, being able to stand up and own your vulnerabilities and say, actually, this is something that isn't okay for me and it's something I'm struggling with is a very manly thing to do. It's very brave, strong, and changing that stigma around it, I think, is one of the key things that's maybe or hopefully going to address that issue, because men don't want to sit down and say, I'm not doing so good, can I have some help? But similarly, other men see their friend is struggling with maybe a divorce or, something that's not going very well in their life, and don't necessarily want to ask them the question, are you okay? Because they're not sure whether the person is going to be comfortable answering it, and they don't know if they feel that comfortable receiving said answer. So I think there's some of the problems and some of the reasonings behind why we've seen such an incline recently in male suicide and poor males' mental health.
Yeah, it's definitely alarming, and you see little bits, don't you, of people talking about it, but there's definitely not enough support for men, and like you say, in understanding, I suppose, how to help someone perhaps that's struggling. One thing I think, and you might be able to explain on this a little bit more, but to me it feels like when you speak to, say, friends or whatever, men do better when you're doing something in terms of talking. So whether it's going for a walk or playing a sport or you're going to the gym or whatever, and you have like passing conversation, I feel like that's a better way for men to open up, like you said, rather than just being across from the table and going, Kurt, are you okay? How you doing? It's a little bit more awkward. And I think maybe when you're even not looking at each other and you're just doing something else seems to be a good way to try and start that conversation.
Yeah, there's a really cool setup locally where they go and they fix things. So they bring like broken hoovers and they'll fix them together, and there's like a collective of men there who've all got different skills, and they all get together and fix like washing machines and hoovers and like dishwashers and all different bits and bats, bikes, whatever. And you can go there, and if you've not got those skills, they'll teach you how to do them. And it is centered around mental health, but it's not. So there's no sort of prerequisite that you have to mention anything that's going on. And a lot of the people I know who've been to that find that quite useful.
So what was it that put you down this path? Obviously, we'll get to what you're doing in fundraising and stuff like that, but obviously men's mental health is a problem. Why are you doing something about it? What is it that's drove you down this path?
So I've spoken about this quite a few times on different platforms, on my own social media. I was on BBC Radio Lancashire talking about it as well. And I had a really, really difficult time at the start of 2025. it was, it actually stemmed throughout 2014. So I was in a long distance relationship, which was quite sort of difficult. And then when it come towards the end of that relationship, I found it quite hard because we broke up, but there was 4,500 miles between us. And then I had a lot of other things going on in my life. I'd lost my driving license, which was an error on my behalf, so that's self-inflicted. And that added a lot of financial pressure, but also pressure in terms of, getting to work every day was stressful. My mum wasn't very well, and that, again, there was a fear that, we might lose her, which would have been obviously very traumatic for me. And then also my tax bill landed, which was way more than I was expecting it to be. Again, my own fault because I'm not very quick at filing my numbers. So all of that led to this place where I was getting more and more lonely. And like my phone would ring and it'd be, one of my best friends, somebody I'd known for 20 years, and I'd intentionally ignore the call because I was just so inside my own head. And it essentially accumulated into me becoming like this almost double life of being at home and being like very, very low and very, very sad, and then having to go to work and bang this mask on, which almost the light and the dark of behaving a certain way at work almost exasperated the darkness at home. And without getting too dark with it, it led me to a very, very low place. And I figured when I eventually managed to speak to my mum, reach out to a few friends, and sort of focus on myself and getting better, I realised I'm not usually inclined to go down that route. And I've had a lot of pretty crazy and bad things happen to me over my life. But if I can get to that spot where I'm considering, the worst, what is it like for somebody who maybe doesn't have that ability to reach out to somebody and say, I'm not okay and I need some help? What's it like if you've maybe not got as many friends? What's it like if you don't know where to find the answers? So I really wanted to create a platform where people can ask for signposting on where they may be able to go. And I also wanted to show people that you might see me in the gym and consider me to be a happy, confident, marginally successful, incredibly good-looking man. But if I can step out and go as far as a public domain to say, actually, I had a really tough time and I was really struggling, and you might not have known, but that's what was going on, could that inspire a man or to say, well, I'm not going to put it on social media or go on BBC Radio Lancashire, but I will call my best mate and tell him I'm not doing so well, and then I could do with a chat, or I will phone my mum or whoever, or I will go to an Andy's Man Club, and that's the goal.
And so that drove you to then start thinking about, and thanks for sharing that, by the way, how can you then help other people? So you wanted to inspire other people into asking for help? Was that kind of or maybe having a conversation about it? Do you think that's like the first step, and then you want to raise awareness of that now?
So awareness from the person within, so internally. So yes, I'm not having a good time. What could I maybe do? And, hopefully looking at my example and maybe taking some lessons from that, but also more around like the community that we've got and utilising that, and people being a bit more proactive in thinking, if your pal goes through a horrible divorce, they're not going to be in a good space. Most likely, they're going to be drinking a bit more than they should, maybe other things. And if you can see those patterns of behaviour, is there something as the person who's not struggling you could do to help them to come out of their shell and to be a little bit more proactive in doing that, rather than waiting for somebody to come to you and ask for help, which could be quite difficult. And it doesn't have to be, mate, do you want to talk about your feelings? It could be, mate, do you want to go for a walk? And just see what falls out of that. And if nothing falls out of it, the company might be enough.
Yeah, totally. We do something that we've been doing for certainly over 12 months now, called the Wednesday Waffle. I don't know if you've heard about this. We saw it off someone on Instagram or something like that. And for those listening that don't know what it is, we record a 2-minute, often goes over 2 minutes, I have to say. We try and keep it down, and it has at points been like 4 minutes or whatever, but that's fine. We record a video, just selfie style on a Wednesday, and then post it into our friends' WhatsApp group. And within that, literally just talk about what we've got going on in our lives, what's happened that week, what have we done, any sort of challenges or struggles or whatever, whether that be how the missus is, how the family is, whatever, how work is, and just let that out. Now, that's not a conversation I would normally have with my friends day to day. As I know you are, like we were just talking before we started, like how busy you are and stuff. You haven't got any energy, I'm presuming, at the end of the day, start going through your phone book and being like, how are you, mate, and all that. It's hard to do, and it's easy for weeks to pass, whereas this Wednesday Waffle means that I know what's going on in my friends' lives and they know what's going on with me. And what happens a lot as a result of that is you might get a separate text, like a one-to-one text, from someone like, are you okay with that? Or how's that? Or nice work on that, or whatever. And it's just, it encourages that communication between friends, which often is the bit that's lacking when someone, like you say, is maybe struggling and hiding away. And sometimes if people have missed for a while, it might be like, listen, dickhead, you need to do your waffle. You've not done it for a few weeks or what have you. And then it encourages them to be part of it as well. We've really done well at keeping it up, which I'm glad of it because of that. Because, yeah, I can express things whether work's going well, not so well, whatever. But I'm learning more about like what my friends are doing and stuff, and I can see that they're having a little bit of a vent as well, and it's beneficial for all parties. So that's something I'd really recommend people do. I don't know if you do it. Obviously, you said you're aware of it.
Yeah, I'm aware of it. I don't do it myself, but I think that might be something that I would implement into. I'll have a consideration on that, actually.
It's, I've got a really close circle of friends. That WhatsApp group's been there since, however long we've had WhatsApp, probably. But, there's...
No one wants to go through the history.
there's 8 people in that group. There's probably a lot of media saved in that group and stuff. But no, there's 8 people in that group. We've known each other for a very long time. And it just really works to have that chat and conversation. So, yeah, I'd really encourage people, especially if you've got a close circle of friends and you're not very good at communicating. I'm not very good at communicating outside of work and social events. Like if I'm at social events and stuff like that, I'll catch up with people and stuff, but I'm very much like head in the game, head in work, got stuff to do, keep conversations at a minimum. And I also know sometimes, like even if the phone rings and my mum rings me or whatever, I could probably and should probably hold that conversation out for longer, but often I'm thinking about the next thing, and it's not, we're not very good at stopping. I know I'm not. And just having those chats, so that waffle really helps you just stop for those few minutes. Sometimes I record it out on a walk. Sometimes I record it out here, whether you're away on holiday. But it just really helps to have that conversation, I think. And to go back to what you were saying before, it helps you maybe stop something before it becomes something with somebody. You might be able to spot something where they would benefit from, like you say, that chat. One of my friends did say in there, he was just feeling a bit, not great. Like anyone free next week? So I just jumped on it straight away. I was like, I've got the flexibility during the day. Yeah, let's go for a dog walk next week. And we did that. Do you know what I mean? And it was obviously both beneficial to him and me. And that wouldn't have happened had we not had that waffle. Yeah. I found that like a really useful tool. So just reverting back then to Andy's Man Club. So tell us a little bit about that, and then let's move on to kind of like the fundraising events and stuff that you've been doing. So tell us about Andy's Man Club, what it does. Have you been?
Yeah, so I've been to Andy's Man Club, the one in Standish, but they're all over the country. There's so many of them, and the guys that are in there running those things, they're like called facilitators. they're so, like, some of the nicest blokes you're ever likely to meet, like really caring, conscientious men who've experienced, you know, difficulties themselves, come through it, and choose to stay at Andy's Man Club to help others, which, you know, is, you've got to rate that, haven't you? So I spoke about this on Radio Lancashire, and I'm going to speak about it again today. And it's, if you're sitting there thinking, I want to go, but I'm a bit scared, that's pretty normal, and you're going to be nervous and apprehensive because you know that you're going to potentially talk about something that you really find quite difficult. So I drove down. I'll tell you about the first time I went. I drove down and I was parked on the car park and I was really nervous. It was across the road from the spot where it's in Standish. Nervous, like, ooh, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? And then get out the car eventually, pluck up the courage. And I think a lot of people maybe have a couple of goes at that before they actually manage to get to walking towards the door. But as you're walking towards the door, there's a number of the facilitators are stood outside looking for new faces. They know the faces that come every week. So if you're a new face or you're looking a little bit apprehensive, they come and they, you know, introduce themselves and they talk to you, take you in, introduce you to a couple of other people who they pretty much know are going to talk to you. They say, have a coffee, biscuits, and then you go into a large group, or, like, depending on the group size, there'll be a big group of people and they pass a ball round. But that part, it's just, you know, my name's Kurt and this is my first time at Andy's Man Club. My name's Kurt, I've been at Andy's Man Club for 5 years, whatever it is. So that part's probably quite easy to navigate. And then they break off into smaller groups. Then once you're in the smaller groups, they ask 3 questions. The first one's, how's your week going? The second one is positives from the week. And the third one is there anything you want to get off your chest? Now, again, they pass a ball round for that. But at no point during that passing of the ball round and they're talking about anything, you can just pass. And then you say, oh, I don't want to talk today, and pass the ball on. And there's not anybody who's going to be like, no, you need to talk. It's not like that. And when you see the array of different men who are there and, you know, some real sort of what you would maybe atypically, if you were to say, draw a manly man, this person would be that person. And then, like, just complete, all different types of people, different ages, you know, all different demographics. But as you hear their stories and they come round, you actually feel all right doing it. It's quite liberating to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. And in fact, I go as far as saying, even if you not really have anything specific, you think I need to get this out, it's actually quite a cathartic process to just be there and have the conversation. I think it's really quite useful. And I think the supportive nature of that setup is really good. They then go on to ask 2 more questions to kind of lighten the mood rather than finishing with the negative stuff, which are similar to, like, would you rathers or, you know, like whatever crazy question it is they've come up with. And those 2 questions change every single week and they're always quite funny. They spark a few conversations and then they just hang around for a bit and off you go. So that's 7 p.m. every Monday night at multiple locations. There's a location finder online, but here we've got 1 in Chorley, 1 in Standish, 2 in Preston. I think there's another 2 over Wigan Way. But as I say, if you put your postcode in, you can find the nearest one.
We can put that stuff like in the show notes and stuff like that for people below. I think, there's definitely, I think most people would probably have a bit of a stigma of these environments. So you being able to explain a little bit about how it works and what it's like is probably useful for someone who might be, like you say, thinking about going. Do you go now every week then, or?
To be honest, I work on a Monday night past 7 p.m. And when I was at my lowest, I didn't know about it. And had I known, I probably would have adapted my diary to go more. I made a decision to go as part of the fundraising so I could talk about the experience from knowing what it's like to go. And any chance I get to go, I'll go. But sadly, my work doesn't allow for it, really. And I wish I could probably go more. Even though I don't need it, I feel great. it's such a nice environment to be in. Even if you go in from like I'm in a good spot, to hear other men's stories and to, I think, make you realise actually that if something is bothering you, that it's okay for that to be bothering you, and the storm will pass.
I suppose, like you said there, to go even if things feel okay as well. Like, it's a bit like, you might get a massage even though you're not broken. You might get like a maintenance massage, or you might, I don't know, do a workout or whatever it might be.
Well, the same with therapy, actually. So if you go for one-on-one therapy, which is something that everybody should do, regardless of whether you think you need it or not, there's always some things that you could work on. And I always say to people, going to the gym is exercise for your body. Going to therapy is exercise for your mind. You might not need years and years of it, but a little visit to a therapist will do 100% of people good.
Yeah, it's a lot more common in America, isn't it, than here in the UK. I think it's probably seen as, again, something in the UK where someone would go if they maybe were forced to go or had to go, rather than, have gone through choice. I know, again, not to be named, but one friend that has been through that process, and it was beneficial to him, so again, like you say, these things are also tools just to keep on top of things rather than something to go to when things get really, really bad, I suppose. Off the back of that, what do you think, why are we experiencing as men so many struggles with mental health? Are there any particular like drivers or reasons that you see that might underpin why we've gone that way?
I think COVID plays, I know it was 6 years ago, but I think COVID sort of decimated a lot of community-based things that we do. People have got a little bit less money now, certainly, which is leading to a lot less sort of socialising in environments which cost money. And then that socialising element comes potentially from social media, which 100% is it can be very, very detrimental to your health in terms of what you're exposed to and how aware you are of that influence that is having on your mood. And then I think, to touch back onto COVID, this rise of loneliness and lack of community that came from that, I think is slowly coming back. I think it's being rebuilt, but I don't think it's quite there yet. And I think that, social media and then a breakdown in community, systemically is one of the key influences for all mental health, not just men.
And then just to sort of touch back on one of your experiences then, I suppose, as well, or your experience of it, you said you go to work and people might see you in the gym as like, happy or confident or, whatever they might see you as in the
lunatic.
Gym. Maybe lunatic, yeah. I mean, I've experienced all of these things with you, so yeah. But, even your clients, maybe as someone as close to you as that, I don't know if they were aware of maybe some of the challenges that you were having there. I'd say it's probably fairly common for that to be the case, right? And did it feel for you like is it like wearing a mask where you're able to hide how you were feeling when you felt like that, do you think? Or do you think people close to you knew? Because that's one of the things you hear, right? When you unfortunately hear these stories of suicides and stuff, sometimes you look and you're like, well, I wouldn't have had any idea that person would have struggled. You know what I mean?
I think in the moment, a lot of my one-on-one clients didn't realise that something wasn't quite right. But in retrospect, having heard me talk about it, they were like, I knew there wasn't something right. I wish I'd asked you. Like, I'm sorry I didn't ask. And I'm like, don't be sorry. Because if you'd have asked, I'd have said, no, I'm absolutely fine. Totally fine. Which is the behaviour that I'm trying to sort of help people to overcome, is that you don't have to talk about how low you are all the time, but if somebody who loves and cares about you asks if you're okay, I think it's more than acceptable to say, well, actually, this isn't going so well.
What you said, you had a lot going on, so is it for you, do you think it was all like external things that led to that? Would you put the blame, so to speak, or the reasoning behind you struggling to like all the external factors that came together? or do you think there's some internal stuff going on there maybe as well?
Of course, I think you get these things, and each thing was manageable on its own, and you internalize it, but then the overthinking comes. Like, for example, yes, my mum wasn't well, but because of the other external factors, internally I'm going to lose her. And then that repetitive thought process comes into play where you almost convince yourself you're going to get a phone call. And then every time I'd get a phone call off my mum, I'd be like worrying that she wasn't going to be okay. And, similar to like the tax bill, I was going to be able to pay it, but I was like, I'm never going to be able to pay this, constantly checking, because my mechanism for coping had been broken. So once you've broken the coping mechanism, then, other maybe more unhealthy coping mechanisms come into play, drinking more than you should, etc.
So then maybe a few things are made worse perhaps by choices that come as a result of not dealing with the thing that's in front of you. Is that 100%. Where you're going with that?
Yeah.
So if you've got, again, to move away from you generally, but someone listening to this, like, they've got a few things going on in life, which a lot of people have right now, and it can feel, maybe they're starting to feel a little bit down on that or what have you. And maybe they're recognizing that perhaps some habits are starting in terms of drinking a little bit more and stuff. What advice would you give to someone there to stop that from spiraling into something worse?
In terms of unhealthy coping mechanisms?
Yeah.
So there's some fantastic services out there that are free to the end user. I interviewed a lady called Anna from an organisation called Change, Grow, Live, and they offer services completely free of charge to people who are struggling with addiction, unhealthy habits. And you can self-refer with that. You don't need to go through a doctor or whatever, the NHS. And they can offer therapy for that. If you're right at the start of that, so it's not necessarily an addiction, although if you're recognising that you're using alcohol as a coping mechanism or other substances, the likelihood is it's a little bit further down the line than a couple of pints on a Saturday night. The problem being that coping mechanism, it makes it feel great in that moment. But the reality is that it magnifies that problem in the mid to long term significantly, even in the short term. So if you've got something that you're trying to cover up through alcohol, the next day that problem's coming back times two, because now not only is the problem not gone away, but you're also hungover. So
yeah, nobody wants that.
No.
Yeah, I mean, just generally speaking, nobody makes good decisions when hungover, right? Or at least you're not motivated to then go and do stuff, and then maybe, I don't know, the order in your house in terms of like it, I don't know, but maybe it's a little bit of a mess, or you don't pay your bills, or all these things then start piling up, and then therefore the spiral in which you were probably talking about earlier. So it's always about trying to catch these things as early as possible, isn't it, at the end of the day? Just from my own personal experience, I think I'm reasonably good at catching myself before I start feeling in a little bit of a funk. I know that something that's not so good for me is having a day or even days on end where I don't do anything. Now, very, very rarely does that happen in my case. I work 6 days. That means Sunday is a really busy day and doing stuff. But if I ever do have a day like that, I just don't enjoy it. It sounds good, but then you can probably relate to this. It sounds good, like, yeah, I'll have a sofa day or whatever and watch. And by the end of the day, I'm like, I am fed up. Like, this is rubbish. And then you start, all these things. That's not good for me. So I just stop that. I don't let that situation happen all that much because it's not so good for me. So I think it's about being more skilled at recognizing the things that make you feel worse, right? Which leads us on to hopefully a little bit around fitness, but what are the things that people could then do instead? So if they are catching themselves perhaps thinking about doing some bad habits or starting some bad habits as a coping mechanism, what could they do instead?
Well, we talk about this all the time with, how there's an inextricable link between, going to the gym or participating in regular exercise and positive outcomes in terms of your mental health, anxiety dropping, depression feeling less overwhelming. And that's no secret, is it, that going to the gym is going to make you feel better? And us two sitting here as proprietors of fitness, it seems like we're just recommending our own products, but that's not the case. The evidence is irrefutable in terms of, if you exercise, you will feel significantly better. It should be prescribed for mental health issues. It should be like, we're giving you a prescription to go and have exercise in this setting, rather than it just being for obesity and high blood pressure and
I always say if it was a pill, it would be prescribed. So, but it's not. So why is it not prescribed, do you think?
That's a difficult question.
Why is it not? Because if all the studies are there, as we know, anecdotally, and we know because of the studies and all the rest of it, why is there not more attention paid to it, do you think?
I think the cost related to having it as a prescription, i.e. you go and see this personal trainer for this many hours per week, is that something they could actually do in terms of budget? I get that. And I think certainly some GPs and people prescribing sort of antidepressant medication, which by no means am I saying is not an essential part of treating mental health in some instances. Some GPs are keen to say, I think the first thing you want to do is try a walk outside, maybe go to a gym or go and play a game of football or whatever it might be. But it is a lot easier to go, oh, you're not feeling too good. Well, let's give you these pills because they will make you feel better in the here and now. And then from there, maybe we could look at some of the other things you could do. And I think there's maybe a slight issue in terms of what the frontline defence mechanism for mental health issues is.
Yeah, so what you're saying is maybe step one shouldn't be that.
Yeah, I hope it's not. It seems anecdotally here, in terms of the evidence I've got and the clients that I've worked with in the past, that they go to the doctor and the doctor goes, oh, do you want some pills for that? Rather than, could we get you to some therapy with this organisation or that organisation? I hope that that's in the minority rather than the majority. And I haven't got the stats to speak for that, but I do know there's an incredible amount of people on antidepressants.
I think there definitely are people that then become reliant upon that. Like, I think if that is step one, then it's like, okay, this is the thing that's going to fix me, or this is what I need, and then everything else then is not as important, right? Whereas if they try the other things, whether that's exercise in a gym or, like you say, going for a walk and getting more fresh air and stuff. I know this sounds like really basic advice, but like most people sit in a room with fluorescent light like these and don't go outside and work at a desk all day, don't walk, get sunlight, do any exercise. So like step one for them might not be go to the gym. It might be, okay, every day just go for a walk. I know, like, I feel, no matter how I feel before going for a walk, and I'm partly forced into it or encouraged into it because I have a dog, and I think I would find it a lot more difficult to go for a walk just because if I didn't have a dog. Maybe the solution is get a dog, but but no, like the point is, when I go for a walk, I feel better no matter what. The other night I didn't want to go, couldn't be arsed. I had 5,000 steps to do to hit my 10,000. It was like 6 p.m. on Easter Sunday. I could not be bothered, but I went out. I was like, oh, the weather's amazing, which is not always the case. But it made me enjoy it a lot more. But within 5-10 minutes, I was like, I'm so glad I've come out.
Even if it's raining.
Yeah, I just think work, might be like sat at my desk and be like, oh, I've got so much to do, like, or whatever. But it'll be a net benefit or a net positive from going for the walk than not, because I go back and I'm more positive, I'm more productive, and sometimes that's perhaps hard to measure in the quality of work that I then might do, that I'm doing for my clients or whatever it is, all the stuff that that we have to do behind the scenes. is better as a result of going for that walk. And I think it's these little micro things that we can do that can just keep things moving on a more neutral or positive state, rather than going, like you said, on the slow, steady decline, if you will, without noticing that it's going that way.
Yeah.
So I think that's mostly what happens with people, like they don't even realize. It's a bit like their fitness, right?
Yeah.
Or their body fat doesn't go on overnight. It goes on, you know, 1/10 of a pound a day for years or whatever.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh shit.
I don't know how I got here.
Yeah. And I think it's probably the case on the mental health side of things as well.
100%.
And then it's something just makes it, you know, click in a negative sense, if you will. So I suppose part of it is trying to help people understand that they can influence how they feel on a daily basis, rather than just reacting to when things are bad.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
100%. Like you were talking about going running, we mentioned the raining. If I go out and it's raining and I get an umbrella out, I almost feel better about it, like I'm cheating it, you know? I've got my, and it's, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I never remember the umbrella from Lissy, and Lissy's got the umbrella, and she's like, and I like put my, she's like, do you not want to come under here? And I'm like, oh yeah, actually this is amazing. Yeah. And everything's fine again.
If it's warm, you can go out in a t-shirt in the rain with your umbrella, and you're like, I'm loving life here under this umbrella.
So walk whether it's raining or not. But yeah, again, I just think these little micro things are what add up over time to become a big thing, whether that's positive or negative. So we do have I don't know if responsibility is the right word, but a responsibility to ourselves to manage that day to day, to do more things that make us at least feel not worse. How much do you think, so touching on things like, weight management and nutrition and diet and stuff like that, do you think, I know we've talked a bit about alcohol, do you think there's some form of link there in terms of looking after yourself in that regard as well?
So the link is, again, we've said it's inextricable, like the direct correlation between, look good, feel good, eat shit, feel shit. That's, if you're eating McDonnell's fries and 20 chicken nuggets every night for dinner, you are not going to feel great. And if you're then adding to that by skipping the gym or skipping that walk, then obviously you're not going to feel good. So yeah, I think we engage in regular exercise, which makes us feel good. Before it makes you look good, it makes you feel good. But when people have the sort of bit longer, a bit more consistency with training, they start to look good. As much as our appearance and the aesthetic shouldn't dictate our happiness, it does. I'd love it if that wasn't the case. I'd love it if everybody came in and they said, I want to be stronger, fitter and happier. But let's be honest, we sit in front of over the decade plus that we've worked in fitness. How many people do we sit in front of who their first goal is that? Some, definitely some, but most of them want to look good naked. That's the top and bottom of it. And when they look good naked, that has a direct reflection on the level of their own happiness. Over time, we as coaches, and also people realize it over time too, we can coach to have a less aesthetic focus, because that is going to lead to longevity of adherence and consistency. Because if you only focus on the aesthetic and the appearance, well, how jacked can you get?
Yeah, where does it stop?
Yeah, bodybuilding show, because for the most part, that generally equates to some pretty poor eating patterns in the future and a fairly unhealthy relationship with your appearance. Or you get to a really sort of healthy physique, a healthy low body fat percentage. Well, now your aesthetic can't change anymore, really, especially once you reach a certain age, a certain ceiling in terms of age, which sadly I'm over. And so if the focus is still aesthetics, then we're probably going to stop, because we've kind of reached it, and then we're going to fall back down. But we're also now not getting the benefits from a psychological standpoint in terms of how great training actually makes you feel.
Yeah, weight loss is, or like you say, aesthetics, or however that looks, often gets people through the door, doesn't it?
Yes.
And then they usually stay because they feel better as a result, when really all along what they wanted is to feel better. And partially that was because they look a bit better. Like, without beating around the bush, like, most people don't want to be overweight or morbidly overweight, let's say. Like, I think that's fair to say that. And most people would benefit in a health sense, if you will, by eating better, losing some weight, getting fitter, and all of that usually leads to a little bit more confidence and all the rest of it. What I find with clients as well, when they come in, it then just opens up a new world to the stuff that they feel comfortable and confident doing outside of the gym.
Yes.
So it might be that they might do stuff like, Born Survivor or Tough Mudder or stuff like that they wouldn't do before, and they might move to like performance-based goals, or it'd be a 5k or a half marathon, or whatever, or doing a pull-up or something. But I just think it makes everything better for the rest of their life as well, and they'll wear stuff that they would never have worn before, which obviously at the end of the day is a benefit, right? Because they're going to social occasions and wanting to go versus avoiding them,
or scared. They go but they're scared, like everybody's going to be looking really great and I'm going to look terrible. And then that text comes through, like sort of 6 months, a year down the line. Oh my God, I'm wearing this and I feel amazing. I feel so confident. That's rewarding for us, right?
100%. And like, I know obviously we were talking before about like transformation photos and stuff like that. And I don't massively push them myself. I don't not do them if someone wants to do them, but I don't push them equally. And there was one recently, someone who started in like May last year, and she has done really well. She's lost a whole lot of weight. But she sent me the picture of her in an outfit at like a festival abroad. And she was like, oh, I really want you to use this because I hope it inspires other people. And, that's where it can be beneficial. But obviously, we're not going to go too far down this rabbit hole today, but I know that you have your own kind of thoughts around transformation pictures and stuff like that. But I guess to stay on task with regards to mental health, the gym and fitness and exercise and eating better is part of those micro contributions, isn't it? To just feeling that little bit better and doing your... I don't know what you would call it, but like it's a bit like an ongoing servicing of your car. Do you know what I mean? Like you need to keep on top of things, otherwise things are going to go bad pretty quick. So let's get into kind of like the fundraising and stuff like that. So where did it start?
So I decided I wanted to do this first gig. I'd had this experience that we spoke about earlier in the January where I'd had this mental breakdown, and I didn't want to really tell anybody outside of the people that I'd told. I didn't want it to be a public thing, actually. I knew I'd had the experience, but anyway, the first party was supposed to be the only party. It was supposed to be one and done. It wasn't supposed to become a series of events or what it has become, or like the Instagram where we go interviewing people, none of that. But it happened to... Well, it didn't happen to. I chose that specific date because as a collection of friends, we lost somebody to suicide, sadly, and it would have marked his 40th birthday. Funnily enough, he hates house music and wouldn't have come to the event, but I love house music, so that's what we're playing.
Yeah. And so I suppose to preface that as well, you, as a hobby, took up DJing, or like how did that start?
So when I was much younger, we used to do like DJing when we were kids, and we'd have like parties and stuff and go like DJ at different places. And let's just say I was not the best DJ when I was younger. But I've since spent a long time teaching spin, where it's all to the beat and like listening to more and more dance music. And I was sitting at home and I was like listening to music, and I was like, I should be DJing this music. This was before I had the idea to do the party. So I got online. I was like, I'll have that one. I'll have this. I'll have that. Anyway, 10 grand deep.
I just remember seeing on your story like you'd bought some decks, and I was like, all right, this is going to take a lot of time of Kurt, yeah.
Yeah, which, using that, so that is the healthy coping mechanism there that is outside of fitness, is, hobbies and interests that require singularity in terms of thought process. So you can sit there and when you're DJing, you can only focus on one thing, and that's DJing.
Yeah, you're there, and also you can only get better with time doing it.
Yeah.
And there's not, unless it was taken away from your work, there's not much negative about it.
No, there's no negative really. But so anyway, we got the decks, and I marked this. It was to mark his 40th, as I said, and in the process of setting it up and getting the raffle prizes together and all of that, one of my clients actually said to, I was explaining to her that I had this underlying thing around doing the party that I hadn't really spoken about, and it was this experience in the January. And she said, you should probably speak about that, really, because the message is that you're telling people it's okay to talk, and you're telling people that they should check on their mates, but you're holding back on something that's actually quite important to the cause. And actually, by doing it, you're probably going to be quite impactful. So I made the decision to speak about it, and I did it in an initial Instagram post. Anyway, long story short, we got to the first party, and everyone was like, "You should do another. It was so good." So we did another. We had a boat party. Then after that, we did.
You had a boat party?
Yeah, we did a boat party in a barge over in Chorley.
I don't remember seeing that one.
Yeah,
right. I remember the first one. I remember seeing one in like a pub. Was it like Hunters or something? Where did you do it?
So then it was at the boat party, and then we had an after party in the ship in Leyland.
Right. Okay.
And then we had the one at Baker Street.
Yeah.
And then we've got this.
Right.
Well, each one's kind of had a different vibe to it. We also did that workout-a-thon across the gym as well, which was cool.
Right.
Yeah. So that was.
So right. Okay. So charity ball aside, which we'll get to in a second. So how much have you raised so far in doing this?
So last year we hit 10 grand.
Wow.
So across the parties and the workout-a-thon, we hit the 10 grand literally in Baker Street as I'm about to start my DJ set. Like, it couldn't have been any more poetic.
Yeah.
I'm literally about to press play. I've got the fundraiser there. I knew it was getting closer, and a couple of my pals all dropped 100 quid in at the same time, and it went over, and I was like, oh, I'll get this. There's a video of me on the Instagram like shouting. I'm like,
I think I've seen it. Seen it. Yeah.
I was so buzzing about it.
Yeah.
That anyway, and then I dropped the tune and off we went, which was cool.
Amazing. So yeah, so the house music continues. So you've got the charity ball coming up, which likely by the time this comes out will have happened. So just tell us a little bit about what your plans are there and what's going to happen.
So charity ball is 11th of April, and it's completely different to the other parties that I've planned. So every other one, it's been throw some decks in there, put a massive sound system in, play some tunes, everybody have a good time. This one, a little bit different. We've got people sitting down for a 3-course meal, a little bit classier. I'm liking to see it as like high society meets low society. So we've got like this classy sort of ball gowns, suits, and then in the same breath, in the corner of the room, there's a tattooist banging out tattoos, actual ones.
Right, okay. That might be the first time at a ball ever, maybe.
Yeah, I hope so. And, we've got a couple of different singers singing some cracking tunes. We've got a young girl lost her granddad to suicide. She's going to be dressed up as Alice, singing as people come through. We've got stilt walkers in all different characters from the film. We've got from the film and book, because it's Alice in Wonderland theme. So that's the whole thing, is that it's centered around Alice in Wonderland down the rabbit hole, and we've got like a lighting tech in to like control the lighting. The way I'm doing the raffle's going to be like almost like bongos bingo style. So when we announce the prizes, it's going to be like to win this one, we're going to pull some tickets, right? You've got to come up and you've got to compete in whatever it might be, different mad games. And then we finish off with Phil Ireland playing on the guitar and singing, phenomenal artist. And he has a real affinity with men's mental health, does a lot with Movember. And so for me and for all the artists that kind of work with it, I always want them to be aligned with the goal in some way. That's a really important part of it for me. Anyway, after Phil finishes, I'll be playing some tunes, and then
so the house music is back, is
fully
in play.
Oh, it's fully in play. Yeah, from 10 p.m. till 1, we'll be banging tunes out, and yeah, it's still gonna. That's the sort of, you know, classy meets debauchery. You know, everybody's in ball gowns, but we're popping shapes.
So we'll put. It sounds amazing. We'll put all the stuff, the Dance for Depression page and stuff like that, and links if people want to check that out. And then if there's any sort of content or whatever that comes off the back of it, I'm sure we can point people in that direction. Is there anything else you want to say on the fundraising front there for that?
Yeah. So after the ball, which will have already happened by the time people are seeing this, we've got the Dance for Depression first birthday, and that is on the 25th of July at the Asylum in Standish. So that's all day and all night, so 2 o'clock in the afternoon till 2 o'clock in the morning. And also, if anybody's out there watching this and they're wanting to either come down and be interviewed by me around, you know, a service that they're offering that would benefit men or women around their mental health, then great, I'd like to speak to those. But also, I'm looking at the moment, and if anybody's got any input into this, into going into schools and speaking to young men aged between 14 and 16 around some of the challenges that I've had, hopefully try and educate them on how they can look after each other and also look after themselves better. So in the pipeline, we've already got 2 schools that we should be visiting within the next 12 months, and the goal is to try and visit every school within the Chorley Leyland area, hopefully by the end of 2027, I would imagine, to have visited all of them, because you've got some holidays coming up. So that's, if anybody's hearing this and thinking I could help him to do that in whatever respect, then cool. And if anybody wants to get involved and help in any way, then also I'm all ears. It's a community thing. It's not, I'm the founder, but it's not me alone. There's like all DJs, people helping out, offering up their support. It's a collective effort from everybody, from the artists, the people who help organise it, right down to the people who are attending, to take the message and say, yes, we will go and check on our mates. Yes, we will speak up if things are not okay. And yes, we will tell people if they're not in a good spot that we love them and that there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Amazing. So we'll make sure, if you're watching this or listening, that we put all Kurt's contacts and ways to get in touch and all of that in the show notes below. Kurt, thank you very much for coming in and your time. Is there anything that you want to finish on in terms of supporting men's mental health? If there's one little thing, if someone's struggling, that you want to say to wrap this up?
If you're sitting at home and you're in a space where you're thinking about the worst possible outcome of depression, then please remember that there is a huge community of people out there who do not want to see your name on Facebook. They do not want to have that news in their lives. And if you can just please reach out to anonymously to the Samaritans. If you message the Dance for Depression page, I can signpost you with somewhere to go. Please speak to your family, please speak to your friends. Or, as I've said, just speak to a stranger, because you can get better. It isn't the end. There is things you can do, and there is light at the end of the tunnel.